Hello everyone, this is part 4 of What If Naruto Was Reborn as a Shinigami, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. As Naruto shuffled along the road to his apartment, he wondered to himself about what to do on a date. Sure, he had asked Sakura on tons of dates, but never once had he actually thought about what to do on one. He wasn't exactly a social butterfly, not that that was his fault entirely. He didn't have a clue what to do. The only thing he could think of was to talk to Iruka and hope his old sensei had some practical advice. Nodding to himself in silent agreement, he shouldered the hammer and took off to find Iruka. Iruka sat in his house, dozing on the couch, with a book on his face. It was one of his rare days off and he wanted to spend it in total solitude. He had put up barriers around his house and had even gone so far as to set up traps to deter any would-be visitors. He had forgotten, though, that Naruto's superior luck and insurmountable stupidity and bullheadedness were enough to go right through anything he had. His eyes cracked open when he heard the first boom of an exploding note and groaned when he heard the cacophony of expletives and shouts of rage from his favorite student. Okay, that wasn't good. I just need to avoid any more. Oh come on. What the F is? Or man, I really liked this shirt, god damn it. I'm going to KIRUKASENSEI when I find him. Iruka sighed audibly and got up to let the golden-haired boy in. He suppressed a snicker when he saw the sight of a smoldering Naruto, who had lost his shirt in the explosion, and the slightly singed hair that was already growing back in. Iruka took in the boy and finally noticed the hammer when Naruto set it down with a loud thump, pushing past the scarred man to wash his face of the soot. Iruka offered a snort at Naruto's actions, eliciting a growl from the Jinchuriki. Naruto had only meant to come to ask a few simple questions, not be put through the ringer because of Iruka's explosive notes. His good mood had soured and the only thing that kept him from a full-blown tantrum was the though that he had to pick up Tenten for dinner later. He didn't have any time to waste on trivial things. Finishing cleaning up, he turned back to his former sensei and coughed into his hand. I'm sorry for interrupting whatever you were doing, Iruka-sensei, but I need a bit of advice and I couldn't think of anyone but you to come to. Iruka grinned when he heard that. It wasn't often anymore that he could actually be of help to Naruto, so this was a rare treat indeed. It was almost worth the boy having crashed his off day. Oh really? Well, I'll do my best to help any way I can. What did you need from me? Advice on dating. If Iruka could have possibly looked any more dumbfounded, he would have. You want advice on dating? Oh ho, finally got Sakura to break down, huh? No, it isn't Sakura. Hinata then. She always had a thing for you, I believe. No, it isn't Hinata. And she had a thing for me. Huh, I never knew, but no, not Hinata either. Ino. Hell number. She's way too bossy. And Sakura wasn't. Well, that's pretty much the gamut of your classmates I know, Naruto. You never had much interaction with the other girls of the class. It's not one of my classmates. Oh, then who is she? An underclassman. Naruto sighed and rolled his eyes. He didn't have time for 20 questions. It's Tenten, Iruka-sensei. I have a date with Tenten. Tenten, the weapons-obsessed girl, with buns in her hair. That's the one. How in the hell did you end up with her? Naruto shrugged and offered a grin. Ask and Kami shall provide. Iruka sighed and sagged his shoulders. Dealing with Naruto was never boring, but in the end he always wondered if it was worth it. I don't want to know, and out of curiosity, where in the hell did you get that hammer? Kami provided it. Okay, how about those stars in your eyes? Kami provided it. Right, gotcha. Look, Naruto, if you don't want to tell me the truth, just say you don't want to tell me, okay? But I am telling you the truth. Look, Sensei, I have to go get ready, but I promise I'll tell you all about how I got everything later. I promise. Fine. I'll see you later then. Oh, and watch out for the other traps. His response was another boom and a scream of fury, making him grin before laying back down. It's never boring with Naruto around, he thought with a chuckle. Naruto finally made it home in one piece, although the looks he got from the girls of the village made him uneasy. It was like they'd never seen a shirtless guy before. He didn't think of himself as anything special, so he couldn't really grasp the concept that he had grown quite handsome over the years. He stepped inside and made the preparations for his date, wondering how in the hell he was going to do it since Iruka didn't really give him any advice. Naruto had gotten fed up from all the questions and left hastily. Oh well, he was used to flying by the seat of his pants, what should make this time any different? He finished getting dressed in the one semi-formal outfit that Sanosuke had gotten him and left his hammer on the walk outside. He wouldn't need it tonight. Tenten was in a frenzy as she thought about what to wear. She wasn't like most girls, who wore kimonos to look good. Tenten liked her Chinese-style outfits and went to great lengths to stay true to her looks. Her hair was always pulled into the buns and she forsook makeup, saying it was too much trouble most of the time. The most she ever did was put on some lipstick. Thinking that her Chinese shirt and pants wouldn't cut it tonight, she pulled out the big gun. A green Chinese-style dress, high up the side, with gold trim was her weapon of choice. If this didn't get a reaction out of the little dunce, then nothing would. She heard the knock coming from the door and hurried down to open it. The sight before her erased any doubts from her mind on whether or not she wanted to be seen with him. Naruto wasn't used to playing dress-up normally. Hell, one could even say he abhorred it. He just wasn't comfortable in anything except training clothes. But tonight, he'd make an exception for Tenten. She had been kind enough to train him and had been patient enough to put up with him. To top it all off, she was a certified bombshell and he couldn't deny that she was beautiful in a sly way. In his eyes, even if he didn't acknowledge it yet, soon, but not yet, she was about as close to perfection as you could get. That's why when she opened the door his jaw dropped and nearly got stepped on. Before him was a verifiable goddess in Chinese clothing. Everything about her screamed, "See," and Naruto was listening intently. Tenten, meanwhile, was drinking up the young man in front of her with her eyes. When she had told him to think casual, but formal, she hadn't thought he'd take it to heart. Wearing a pair of khaki pants with brown leather shoes and a black silk shirt with Sunit's N lace on the outside, he looked very, very handsome. She laughed evilly in her mind. She'd be the envy of several women tonight, oh yes indeed. With one last appraising look, she beckoned him inside and directed him to the couch while she went upstairs and performed some last-minute touch-ups. Wearing a mischievous grin, she bolted up the stairs to find her heels and get the date underway. She hadn't been this excited in a long time. Naruto sat and took in his surroundings. Tenten's place was simple and clean, exactly how he thought it would be. Simple because she hardly had any personal effects lying around with the exception of some photos of her team. She had no family, so she had no heirlooms or anything of the such. Clean because the girl was meticulous in everything she did. Whether it be dusting or polishing a kunai, Tenten was a stickler for cleanliness. If we ever get more involved, I'll have to be certain to pick up more after myself. In fact, if it weren't for the weapons adorning every wall in the house, he would have thought she owned nothing at all beyond a couch and bed. Scrolls were rolled and neatly stacked in a corner, waiting to be filled with various pointy objects of death. Naruto leaned back in his seat and pulled one leg over the other so that his left ankle rested on his right knee, and thought about everything he knew about Tenten. He knew that Tenten was a kind person, unless you pissed her off. He knew she was a weapons master and could do anything she wanted with something that was pointy. When she had a kunai, she could be as sadistic as Anko. When she was weaponless, she could be as shy as Hinata. Weapons gave her confidence, and since she was never without a weapon 99 of the time, her confidence in herself was always through the roof. Her clothes nowadays weren't far off from her clothes when they were little, but they were a bit more suggestive and mature. Their time spent together outside of battle was spent trolling through the weapon shed trying to find things she could fix or make into something better. It was a fun hobby, but they didn't usually speak about anything except their missions and their teammates. Naruto frowned at how little he knew about Tenten. He'd have to remedy that, starting tonight. Tenten, meanwhile, was humming happily to herself. She had done the obligatory, make the guy wait pointlessly, gig to A.T., and now was ready to go. In actuality, she was ready to go the minute he walked in and only had to slip on her heels, but she decided to make him sweat a bit. After all, tonight was her night, as well as his. She was going out with one of the best-looking boys in Konoha and the one who was decidedly the most exotic-looking. Screw Sai and his Sasuke-ish looks, she'd take Naruto's wild, untamed look any day. It suited her better. She patted her hair and looked into the mirror one last time and gave herself an approving nod. Slipping her heels on, she began her slow trek downstairs to what she hoped was an eventful evening. She stopped when she got to the bottom of the stairs and slipped quietly to the corner of the wall and looked into her living room. A small smile crossed her face when she saw Naruto sitting with his legs crossed, a pensive look on his face. He looked to be deep in thought, and no matter what anyone else thought, she thought the look suited him. He sat still as could be, a contradiction she was never able to explain, while tapping a finger on his left knee. She didn't know it, but he was thinking about her. However, at the moment, her playful nature was getting the best of her and she decided to have a little fun with her date. Slipping a tanto off the wall, she slid behind the couch and put the knife to Naruto's en, bending his head back. You know, you kept me waiting longer than you should have. Perhaps I should alleviate some stress by shaving a few of your en hairs. Naruto's only response was to smirk and push his en into the blade, causing Tenten's eyes to widen and her to screech, when suddenly he burst into smoke. She looked frantically around until she heard a snicker from behind and whipped around to find Naruto standing on the wall sideways. He flashed her a foxy grin and flipped over her head, landing nimbly on his feet before being knocked to the floor by an irate Tenten. Tenten was furious. Not only had her little joke backfired, but the notorious prankster had one-upped her and come out on top. While the poor boy was recovering from head trauma and Tenten was taking deep breaths to calm herself down, her mind was racing. Damn, that was actually pretty good. He kawari-me'd with a clone that I didn't even see him make and stuck to the wall behind me without being seen. Yep, life will never be boring with him around. Alright, jackass, get off the ground and let's go. I'm hungry after all that physical exertion and I want to show off my date for the night. Ugh, what did you say just now? Tenten blushed slightly when she thought about what she had just said. Luckily, the idiot hadn't caught the tail end of what she said and she got off scot-free. Straightening herself out quickly, she helped him stand and smiled sweetly while escorting him to the door, before locking it behind her. Turning to the now confused Jinchuriki, she looped her arm in his and urged him to walk forward. He complied and they marched off into the night, to begin the date. As they walked through the streets, Tenten took the time in between the short bouts of conversation to take in the looks from the people around them. Most of the older crowd was either indifferent or livid that Naruto was escorting her around. She scowled at the thought that some people could still be so stupid even after all these years. Those thoughts were quickly erased when she cut her eyes to see Naruto's brilliant smile hadn't faltered in the least. While she was sure it was forced somewhat, the underlying message was that while they may hate him, they were all jealous of him and the beauty beside him and the small happiness they had at the moment. It was moments like these that Tenten would look back upon in the future and they would bring a smile to her face. She looked around at the faces of the younger generation and noticed that most either had a smile on their face, seeing another young couple on the scene, or that they had jealous looks, either for her or Naruto. She knew she wasn't the most desirable kunoichi, but she had a certain appeal due to her tomboyish charm and affinity for sharp things. She was an enigma to most boys when really she was easy to figure out. She wanted someone to love her, for her, not what she could offer them. Naruto was that type of person. He took everything at face value, for better or worse, and loved a person for who they were. Everyone had faults, everyone had vices, and he knew that above all. She unconsciously tightened her grip on his arm as they continued on. Naruto's thoughts were somewhat muddled at the moment. On the one hand, he was enjoying the closeness that Tenten offered, but on the other hand he was uncomfortable with the looks he was getting. The regular glares didn't bother him, he was used to those. It was the looks of jealousy and, was that lust? It was completely foreign to him and although not unwanted, he had no idea how to interpret that look. It was pleasant coming from the girls on the street, but for some reason he didn't understand, he'd take Tenten's small smile above a lecherous grin any day of the week. Perhaps it was the fact that Tenten actually could put up with him that made him like her. He'd probably never figure it out. Hey Tenten. Where are we eating at tonight? I thought you knew already. Nope, that's why I was asking. Tenten sighed. She had forgotten to tell him where she wanted to eat. It was her fault, kinda, but she wouldn't let him know that. You're supposed to know where I want to eat, dummy. But I'll forgive you this time. We're going back to the sushi restaurant and we're going to have a lot of fun, with a good conversation. Then, on the way home, we're going to walk by the river and talk some more. After that, you're going to take me home, give me a hug, and wait until I shut the door before you leave. You've had a lot of time to plan this out, haven't you? Over a week. Is it too much to ask that I have fun on a date? No, but aren't you afraid I'll screw your perfect date up? She stopped in the street and gave him another one of her smiles that made him feel like the luckiest person in the world. Naruto, the only way you could have screwed up is if you wouldn't have shown up. Now keep walking, you're making me hungrier. The rest of the walk to the restaurant was uneventful until they ran into Ino and Sakura, who were out enjoying the evening and gossiping like there was no tomorrow. Naruto groaned inwardly at the thought of those two seeing him with Tenten. He didn't care personally what other people thought about him, it's what they thought about Tenten. Tenten groaned out loud. Everything was going perfectly until those two harpies came on the scene. Now there probably would be a scene. And sure enough, Ino and Sakura spotted the couple and were immediately by their side. Ino had a large smile on her face, while Sakura was just a tad curious as to why they were dressed up. Ino started the ball rolling. Well, hello you two. What are the two of you doing out on this fine evening? Naruto looked at Tenten and gave her a small nod, letting her know that she should do all the explaining. Best thing he could do was keep his mouth shut as long as possible. We're going to dinner and then take a walk. Anything we can help you two with. We're already running a bit late. The underlying hint was, I don't want to talk so get the hell out of the way, but an Ino that smells gossip is an imperturbable Ino. Or, I was just wondering why the two of you were all dressed up. You're not on a date, are you? Yes. Oh, I didn't think. Wait, you are. Ooh. And how did you two meet? Tenten sighed and decided that she should just get the interrogation over with now. She threw Naruto a quick glance and saw that he had schooled his features into an unreadable face. At least he's trying to be good at the moment. No telling how long that'll last though. Ino, we've known each other since the Chunin exams. Naruto and I have been training together for a little while now and I invited him out on a date. Sakura decided to make her presence known at that moment. True to form, she didn't really care what Naruto did, but he was her Naruto and Tenten was an unknown at the moment. She didn't really like the idea of him dating other people, even if she didn't want him. A girl needs her backup after all. You invited him. Damn Tenten, I didn't know you were that desperate for a date. Why Naruto and not Neji? He's a lot hotter than Naruto. Tenten and Naruto both scowled at that little comment. Naruto was very conscious of his looks and didn't like to be reminded of how different he was from everyone else. With blonde hair, blue eyes, and whisker marks, he was already an oddity and he didn't need to be reminded of that. Tenten was pissed because she was beginning to like Naruto for the exact reasons that he wasn't Neji. Naruto was open and honest, carefree and childlike, fun and exotic. Guys like Neji were hot in the boring, cookie cutter, black hair, foul mood, and I don't care what you think because I'm better than you way. Personality counted for a lot in Tenten's book and Naruto had that in spades. She cut her eyes one more time to Naruto and saw that his mouth was slightly open and she could actually see the fangs, lengthening. His whisker marks were also deepening slightly. She decided to end this conversation quickly before Sakura got mauled. Well, I hate to end this lovely conversation, but we need to be going. We'll see you guys later. Come on Naruto, I'm hungry. Yes ma'am. Tugging on the blonde's arm, they walked briskly past the two girls and Ino shuddered when she felt the cool breeze as they walked by. Feeling that she hadn't gotten in the teasing she wanted, she turned to Sakura in a huff. Now why the hell did you go and say that, forehead? I still wanted to talk to them. No harm done. Besides, I'm pretty sure that Naruto begged Tenten to go out with him, not the other way around. Tenten has higher standards than that. You know Sakura, I don't see your reasoning. Just because you don't see Naruto as boyfriend material doesn't mean others don't. He's actually pretty hot. There aren't any other guys like him in the village and most of the civilian girls look at him and blush. Just because you're hung up on one guy doesn't mean the rest of us can't shop around. I know that, but why Naruto? Nobody ever looked at him before. It's because he grew up, Sakura. He's not the idiot anymore. He's not stupid, and I'm pretty sure he never was. He just acts that way now because that's his personality. He wants others happy, so he acts like a clown. Tenten's just lucky she got to him before I did. Who knows? In another world, maybe we could have been something. They continued walking on, and Sakura chewed on what she had been told. Naruto, hot. Nah. X. Tenten sighed happily as Naruto held her chair out for her. He had been a perfect gentleman so far, and her expectations of this date were being surpassed quickly. Naruto thanked Jiraiya in the back of his mind for all the lessons on manners that he beat into his head against his will. He'd be lost without that old pervert's training. Taking his seat across from her, they placed the drink orders and waited for them to arrive. Naruto decided to strike up a conversation to break the quiet. Thanks for getting me out of there, Tenten. I don't think I could have stood the subtle jabs another second. Tenten giggled and smiled at him. No problem. I saw that you were becoming agitated with Sakura, so I decided that we had better leave. How did you know that I was agitated? Your fangs and whiskers were changing. Oh, yeah. Silence reigned again, and thankfully the clunk of the drinks hitting the table broke it. The two young ninja placed their orders and sat back again to silence. Why was it so hard to talk to one another now? Maybe it was the realization setting in that they were on a date. Desperate to say something, anything, Naruto blurted out the first thing on his mind. You look beautiful tonight, Tenten. That dress really suits you. Tenten smirked at that and decided to have a little fun with him. Just tonight. I'm hurt, Naruto. Poor Naruto, simpleton that he is, thought he had hurt her feelings. No, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant you look especially beautiful tonight. Normally your beauty radiates above all others, but tonight you look like a goddess. Even if she knew that he was laying it on a little thick, Tenten couldn't help but blush. After all, it wasn't every day that she got compliments like that. Well, thank you, Naruto. You don't look bad yourself. I like that outfit, it makes you look distinguished. Hey, thanks. So tell me, why did you want to go out with me tonight? I thought I told you already. I like you. You're a nice guy, and I thought you might be fun to keep around. Like for eternity. Can't believe he hasn't figured it out yet. Oh, well, I'm flattered. Truly I am. I just can't tell you how lucky I am. I've never been on a date before, and to go on one with a girl like you is a real treat. What do you mean, a girl like me? You know, one who treats me like a normal person, instead of a plague or a burden. It's nice to be treated like a human being for once. I guess, your being cute is just icing on the cake. I like your personality best. It's something I could get used to. Really? Well, thank you, Naruto. I just wish we'd done this sooner. It's nice having someone around who can act normal, instead of a cold jackass or a living megaphone. You shouldn't talk about your teammates like that, Tenten. They're nice guys on their own, especially Lee. I know, but you don't have to be around them all the time. Just be thankful you don't have to be on Team 7. Sigh. I really don't know why I stay sometimes. Is it really that bad? At times, yeah. I feel like the odd man out at times. I was trained by a Sannin, for heaven's sake. Why do I always feel so weak and helpless? I know I can beat Sasuke. I practically could have killed him when we fought at the Valley of the End. But now it seems like there's an insurmountable gap between us. I can't seem to beat him. You're still holding back. Do what? You're still holding back. You didn't want to kill him last time you fought, so you held back. He's not holding back, and therefore he'll beat you every time. But I heard your speech today, Naruto, and I agree with you. You can't afford to hold back anymore. Too many people depend on you and not Sasuke. I'd be sad if you got yourself killed. Now that took Naruto aback. For some reason, an unhappy Tenten didn't sit well with him. He was beginning to like that smile of hers, and a frown on her face because of him was a failure on his part. He reached across the table and put his hand over hers, while giving her a large foxy grin. Don't worry, Tenten, I'm not going anywhere. Besides, after the first date comes the second, right? I can't go before we at least get a second date. You're right, I'd like that. And next date is all up to you to decide. Food's here. The rest of dinner was spent in idle chit-chat, learning a bit about each other, and the sound of Tenten happily consuming sushi. Naruto remained somewhat moderate. He wasn't fond of sushi and besides, he had to pay for Tenten's meal. Poor Gama-chan, he'd be so flat until his next mission. Once they were finished, he paid for the meal, tears pouring down his face while Tenten rubbed her full tummy, and they began their trek to the river. The moonlight was as perfect as it could get and reflected off the surface of the water and onto the couple's faces. The pale light seemed to give Naruto silver stars an otherworldly glow that Tenten could not tear herself away from, while her pale skin seemed to shine with luminescence that Naruto found heavenly. In a way, she reminded him of his vision of Kami, happy, sure of herself, and wise. She was perfect. Tenten just walked along happily rubbing her full belly and leaning against Naruto. She found it hard to believe sometimes that the squirt who beat Neji was standing beside her like a rock. Tenten wasn't small by any means, but Naruto could toss her around like she was a tennis ball. She sighed in contentment and closed her eyes. If this first date was a precursor to what the rest of her life was going to be like, then she would gladly accept the will of Kami. Even her own imagination had never treated her this romantically. After walking for a while though, she became tired and pulled Naruto over to a tree beside the water. Naruto, being the gentleman that he was, offered for her to sit on his lap so she wouldn't stain her dress. Being the simpleton that he is, he didn't see the significant meaning beside this, but Tenten did. She did see the logic in it though. After all, it would be easier for him to replace a pair of pants than it would be for her to replace her favorite dress. While she made herself comfortable, with lots of wiggling around, Naruto was repeating his, "not a pervert," mantra in his head. Not that he minded Tenten moving around, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to hide his arousal at having a beautiful girl in his lap. Finally, having grown exasperated with her constant ministrations, he grabbed her around the waist and held her against him while he watched the stars twinkle and felt the wind blow. Closing his eyes, he let out a deep breath and relaxed. Tenten had been squirming on purpose, trying to get a reaction out of him. She had gotten the desired reaction but was amazed at the boy's level of resistance. It was like he had an iron wall of resolve around his soul frustrations. One would think that traveling with a pervert would break down any walls he had against perversion, but the travels with Jiraiya only proved to strengthen them, albeit slightly. Somewhat put out that he was able to resist her, not that she would ever stop teasing him, she huffed and crossed her arms. Naruto, sensing her displeasure, leaned in and scrunched his eyes in that foxy manner. Did I do something wrong? If I did, I'm sorry. Tenten realized how she was acting and immediately told him nothing was wrong. Sensing no lie, Naruto leaned back again and closed his eyes, enjoying the feeling of the breeze as it caressed his cheeks. The weapon's mistress looked back to her date's face and couldn't help but be entranced. With his eyes closed and at ease with the world, Naruto did indeed look like an innocent angel. She let out a happy sigh and leaned against his chest. She couldn't help but notice that he emitted a warmth from himself that was intoxicating. She felt happy and safe, and it wasn't long before sleep claimed her. Naruto had slipped into a light doze, but he never fully went to sleep. When he felt the rhythmic rise and fall of Tenten's chest against him, he looked down to find her asleep and snuggling into his shoulder. He smiled and scooped her into his arms. She felt so light, and when she burrowed her face further into his chest, he couldn't help but laugh. A girl as sly as herself, reduced to a mere child in his arms. Oh well, might as well enjoy it while it lasts. Not wanting the feeling he had to leave, he walked back to her apartment instead of running. Their date was over and Tenten had to come to terms with the reality that she couldn't sleep in Naruto's arms forever, no matter how comfortable it was. Yawning cutely, she began to shift around, letting him know she was awake. Naruto was almost to her house though and ignored her. She wiggled more, she wasn't paying attention to where they were, and he nearly dropped her. Tightening his grip and pulling her closer, he looked down and saw her brown eyes staring up at him. He chuckled and kept walking, while she huffed and crossed her arms. I know you want down, Tenten, but we're nearly to your house. Humor me and let me carry you like a gentleman. Besides, you didn't have any problems while you were sleeping. I was not. Oh, so those cute little snores weren't coming from you. She smacked his arm and looked away. Jackass. Ah, you like it. Silence fell until they reached her door and he set her down. Naruto stood there, not really knowing what to do, until Tenten wrapped her arms around his waist and gave him a hug. Thanks for tonight, Naruto. I had a lot of fun and we definitely need to do it again. Whenever you want, Tenten. Good night, Naruto. Before he could say anything, she leaned in and gave him a peck on the cheek, pivoted on her foot and locked the door before he could do anything. She didn't hear the small, "good night," from the flustered boy, but she did hear his shout of joy from down the street. She went to sleep that night with a smile on her face. Life was definitely looking up for the bun-haired girl. Naruto was ecstatic as he bounded home, light as a feather. He ran up the stairs and ran through the door, screeching to a halt before he barreled into Sanosuke. He looked questioningly at the angel and received a smile that lit up the room. So Naruto, did you enjoy yourself tonight? Since you seem to know all about it already, why don't you tell me? Oh, smarter we. Well then, yes, I can tell you that you did enjoy yourself. Do you know why you were so comfortable with her? Because she's cute. And nice to me. Sanosuke sighed and shook his head. The boy still wasn't quite there yet. He looked back to Naruto and gave him a grin. Don't worry, boy, you'll get it one day. I'll see you later. I have other things to do. Sanosuke disappeared without a trace, leaving a slightly miffed Naruto. If you have other things to do, then why in the hell did you come see me? Forgetting Sanosuke, Naruto laid down and drifted off to sleep, dreaming of his date with Tenten and things to come later. Sanosuke knelt before Kami again and offered his thoughts on the date. Progress was acceptable, although Kami wished Naruto wasn't so dense. It certainly made things harder on the deity. I've never seen anyone who could be so innocent at such a subject. It's like he doesn't have a clue. What do you expect from one that has never known the love of another before? He doesn't know how to react to this level of intimacy. Wait until she wants a bit more from him. Hey, he's gonna freak out. Yes, that will be humorous to watch. Or hear about rather, not that I would watch. Of course not, Master. You would definitely never do that. The next morning came without fail and Naruto woke to the sound of something knocking against his window. He turned bleary-eyed to the sound and found a messenger bird. Picking the message off its foot, he shooed it away and opened the miniature scroll. Naruto, you have a mission. B rank. Be at the tower by 9 a.m. Soonad. Groaning, he rolled over and threw his pillow over his head. He didn't want to get up, especially after having over a week off, but he couldn't deny a mission. It just wasn't in him. Throwing one last dirty look at the bird as it flew off, he stood to get dressed. At least maybe it would be a mission where he could try out his hammer and new dance. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.